Did you smoke anything on your honeymoon?
I am not at liberty to say anything, but...
Okay. Well, welcome to another episode of the Blue Banana Podcast. Today with even more time difference than usual. Special edition. I'm coming here from my European roots to you. Took the first chance to get back to Europe after Japan opened back up. And with me today, as usually, I have my most southern friends on my friends list, on my very short friends list. How you guys doing?
I'm doing great. Yeah, all two of us elected to show up from your list today. Which one of us is more southern, do you think, Sophie? I think it's me.
Definitely you.
So I am the southernmost friend. You are the northernmost
yes.
friend.
But my friends list is very, very short.
We know.
It's about to get shorter.
It is about to get a lot shorter. Ouch. Ouch, that hurt. So yeah, basically I just came out of bed. I have like my setup instead of my usual so Liam thought it would be a good idea that I basically give heads up before everything goes to shit here. So instead of my usual nice big lights and everything in my studio, I have these nice pocket lights that are at 56% already. So we will see how long this all lasts.
Maybe if your lights run out, we can all turn ours off and we can just be a very moody, like, Halloween podcast.
Yeah, we could start telling horror stories.
I'll be sad and dark in the corner. I'll just be like...
Classic European art cinema.
Yeah, it is.
Very
it is.
dark,
We're also gonna,
very
like, when the
European.
lights go out, we're also gonna desaturate it, cool down the temperature of the image.
Yeah, have a crying mime in the background. Or...
There's just a naked German dude.
Manu's gonna take his clothes off.
No, that's French.
French, German.
No, for German, it's more like a fat dude in like his 40s or 50s, naked, smoking a cigarette.
It is, isn't it? That was, like, we were talking about German expressionist theater before this because that's what we do. For reasons. One of the shows I saw in Sydney had a exactly what you described. It was a naked, I would go so far as to say morbidly obese man on stage, smoking what I think was a fake cigarette, but he was also drumming. So he had a big drum in front of his already giant belly.
You know, to be fair, I think it's interesting. I feel like those are the people who are most comfortable being naked for some reason. It's never the very beautiful people. It's never like, oh yeah, I feel like getting naked today. We have a name for that actually in German. It's called Freikörperkultur. It's FKK. We have like these beach sections where there's just like nude people. So nude beaches, really big thing. I mean, I think there's a couple of countries. I think like Spain has those. I'm not sure about France actually.
I believe we
But
have
like
nude
some
beaches as well. There are some that are just designated.
Yeah, we definitely have nude beaches.
I wouldn't call them common, but they definitely exist.
Well, you'd know, Sophie, because you love the beach.
Definitely
Yes.
love the
Have you
nude
been?
beaches. I've never been to a nude beach, but I know where they are because it's very close to a beach that I like to frequent. But I've heard that it is...
I just look. I don't go there.
Exactly, I just lurk from the outside. I know where they are.
Peer from
I
the
know
I
where they
don't
are. I just don't
participate.
go there.
But I did hear that they are often populated by just older men, which is
Yeah.
why I don't
Yeah.
like to go.
You heard that.
Yeah, that's what I heard, supposedly, from a friend.
Was that friend's name Sophie or...
Sophia, maybe.
No, but I mean, I guess it makes sense because, like, I mean, as a guy, like, you have two choices as a guy. You're either very insecure about pulling your junk out in front of other people, or you fully embrace it and go full like fuck it. So I feel like there's nothing in between there.
I guess this is a good time to figure out what kind of guys we are. I'm definitely guy number one. Manu, how about you?
I'm probably more guy number two.
And yet, we're 4 episodes into a podcast and you still haven't whipped it out yet.
We've yet to see.
See, that's how decent I have become.
I don't like it.
And this is how he loses his friends.
Because he did not. If that's not the best video title ever, I lost all my friends because I didn't show them my penis.
Because you didn't.
They demanded it and I didn't comply. No, but I think that's the thing. And then there is obviously the thing where, like, as a dude, like, I guess guys are just more happy they go to the nude beach and are like, oh yeah, I'm gonna look if there's like some girls naked. And then I understand that as women, you're probably more like,
Yeah, I guess it does sound good in theory.
I don't know. I'm sure there's genuinely people who like just enjoy being in the camaraderie of fellow liberal-minded people.
There's a whole community.
But I'm sure there's still a lot of people in there who just want to go there to see boobs or something. I don't know. I feel like I'm going to be that judgmental about it. So
the biggest shame is that I really like to tan, and so I don't like having tan marks. And so in theory, I would like to go to a nude beach so that I don't have to have these awkward tan lines, which is what I currently have. But what I end up doing is just going to my parents' backyard and saying, no one come out for 2 hours.
So Sophia has her own private nude beach.
I was going to say, you've designated a nude backyard.
Yeah, a nude backyard for myself. That's literally all I was doing during my isolation period when I caught corona virus, was going tanning in my backyard because it was so hot. It was right dead in the middle of summer, like 30-degree weather, and I was burning that I could not be at the beach.
You just overdosed your COVID with vitamin D. That's what you did.
Which is why I had barely any symptoms.
You cooked the COVID away. Yeah.
Exactly.
But to be fair, I think there's nothing wrong with like, what is it? What's the name? Like tan lines?
Tan lines?
Yeah. I think they're kind of hot.
All right, I'll keep that in mind. All right, then I guess I'll keep that in mind. Well, if Manu says...
I think that's the most awkward thing that's been said on the podcast so far. And I'm impressed that it didn't come from me.
Has it? Well, I'll write that down on our board then for most awkward thing, and we're gonna update this as the episode continues.
We should track that because episode series.
I'm sure the comment section will take care of that for us.
We'll have a special where we go and review.
I think we talked about this before, but like tanning for me is something I never got into because of like it takes me 2 months to get a decent tan and I lose it in like 4 days, I think.
The comment section can track how dark I look progressively through the episodes. I think this will be probably one of the episodes where I look the darkest because I just came back from the Gold Coast and I went jet skiing, I was at the beach, I was walking around in sun, and then you'll see in a couple of months' time just white, just pale.
You do look like summer. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Now that you mention it.
You look like summer.
I look like summer. You'll see my mood change
Hot
as well.
and disgusting and sweaty and awful Australian summer.
Smelly and...
flies everywhere.
We can suffer together. Like, you can suffer through Australian winter and I'll be suffering in Japan's. What is it, like 40 degrees, 90% humidity?
Australian winter is paradise.
Do not believe him. Do not
believe me.
him.
Believe me.
I'll just be sitting like Liam, dude in a room style. I'll just be sitting under my aircon the entire song. I'll be like, It's that bad though. Like I generally don't like going outside.
I agree. It's
Like,
that bad in
in July.
Australia as well, which is why we have air conditioning in like almost every room in where we live. Like, it would be
Yeah, I hope you
impossible
have.
to be in this room right now
Wait, do you
if there's
have-
no air conditioning.
Do you have like some Australian rednecks who are like, I don't need no air condition?
I'm sure there are.
So our version
Nice.
of rednecks are called bogans, and it's
bogans.
more like, oh crikey, I don't have them fancy air conditionings. I can't afford that.
Oh yeah, mate.
Mate.
What was the other one you showed me the other day? That was actually pretty funny, that Australian interview thing.
Oh, with
That
the
was
barking
genuinely
man.
good. Yeah, that was really funny.
The what, man? I haven't seen that.
The guy who was describing the dog's bark, that's an
You
Australian.
haven't?
I
Oh,
haven't seen that.
I was like, the poor wife.
Hang on, Australian dog barking man.
Now, yesterday morning, I came out into the front yard and the dogs were across the road. And as soon as they saw me, they came bounding over. And I just made it into the front door in.
That man is an icon.
The title straight away is Psycho Dog Man.
Psycho dog man.
Australian Rabid Ray.
It's a very
Rabid
long title,
Ray.
actually.
It is.
Manu, what do you think of this title? Psycho Dog Man, craziest barking dog impression ever. Australian Rabid Ray Graham. I think it's a long title.
It's a bit long, yeah.
Like a combination of a lot of just tags put together.
Yeah, it feels like a
it's
list of
it's a
tags.
keyword
Yeah.
title.
Exactly, just a list of keywords.
One big important tip, don't optimize your titles for YouTube, optimize them for people.
It's true.
It is true though, it is true.
And also, don't bother with tags ever. They're useless now.
Are they really?
Except if you're a new channel, I would say.
Maybe. I still feel like you're better set putting your time elsewhere than spending like 5-10 minutes getting tags together.
Mine's usually a copy and paste job.
I think it can help in like the first day in general, like for search.
And I suppose if something topical is up.
Yeah.
I just don't. I'm not
I mean,
sure.
for chapter reviews, I would definitely
Exactly,
put
that's
it
what I
in.
was going to say, chapter reviews.
No, but YouTube's serving functionality is so advanced that it listens to what you're saying and it uses what's
know
in
what
the
you're
video
saying, yeah.
more so than like that little bit of extra information you give it. I feel you. If you're a brand new channel, go for it because you just need to get like a foot in the door.
Yeah, I think you should as a brand new channel because YouTube doesn't know yet who to serve your videos to.
If you have any momentum
Yeah.
whatsoever, in my opinion, your time is better spent elsewhere.
Interesting.
There you got
Controversial.
it. Do you write that down,
Interesting.
Sophie?
I will. I'll keep a note. Spend no time on tags. Spend it somewhere else. The mystical land
Spend it
of
on the
somewhere
beach.
else. Yes, exactly.
There was a point in my life where I
I
got.
was about. Go, sorry.
How dare you interrupt me with your laughter? There was, I think every YouTuber goes through this. There was a time where I got heavily invested into optimizing SEO, like downloaded all sorts of extensions and stuff and started, trying to very strategically get in tags and keywords. And there was a point where I was spending like, I don't know, an hour just coming up with tags and titles and just delving into that shit. None of which particularly matters. Eventually, I just gave up and I said, I'm just not doing tags anymore, and nothing changed.
So do you leave your tags completely blank?
Yep. In protest.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
In silent protest.
Well, in theory, the description also doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
It's more like,
Yeah.
giving additional information to your viewers and so on and so forth. But it won't make your video perform any better or worse. Except, again, if you are a younger channel and YouTube really doesn't know yet what to do with the video you just gave it.
Interesting.
Even then, I still feel like they might serve it based on the content that they see in it. I don't think it's as important for what we do, because if you're making like anime videos, you're giving YouTube information like, there's that weird boy with the straw hat, and he's saying the One Pieces and all that sort of stuff, and it can start feeding things out based on that.
I mean, in case you're not familiar with it, YouTube actually has an AI running not only on your thumbnail. Not only does Google understand what your thumbnail is all about and analyze it AI-wise, but actually an AI goes through your videos frame by frame and audio by audio and picks up everything you say and everything that's on screen and builds a profile of that video based on that AI analysis. So even if you didn't have a title or a thumbnail, YouTube would still probably figure out what that video is about really, really fast.
I can prove that as well. There was one video, embarrassingly recently, that I forgot to put the title on before I posted it on New World Review. And it just went up with a completely blank title, but people still went for it.
Maybe it was part of the intrigue. Having a completely blank title, I think, would be quite intriguing.
Yeah, it's like counter clickbait.
Exactly.
Maybe.
I'm surprised YouTube even lets you upload.
Yeah, me too. I thought it would go on with like a auto title
It didn't
of
have
the video.
no title. It had
Spacebar.
not a space bar. What's the one line called? You know, the dividing line.
The
Oh,
dividing
yeah.
line thing?
Yeah, so back in the
Dash.
day, I used to title all my videos, this is the title, then that line, then Grand Line Review. So what I did was I just set it so that the line would just be there all the time in the customization settings. So it uploaded
But not
with
the
that
Grand Line
line.
Review?
This was on New World Review, thankfully. I did not fuck up on Grand Line Review.
If anything, I think people would have clicked to comment, you fucked up.
They did. There was a sea of comments going, whoa,
There is no title.
no title.
Yeah. Did you know there is no title? No title. No
You're
title.
going full avant-garde,
Yeah.
yeah. That's the theater person inside him.
A lot of people did think it was intentional. They were like, oh, what a move.
And Liam was like, yeah.
Yeah.
Totally on
I
purpose.
meant to do that.
And what they were met with was a list of fun facts about Killua from Hunter x Hunter.
Maybe the blank title was the mystery fact.
Maybe.
Yeah.
No.
It's a good way to finding out how many people are just like, he uploaded, whatever.
It was
Anyways.
an interesting experiment to see how many people would click without a title, for sure. The answer is about 30% of average, which I think
Okay.
is
I mean-
shockingly big. for what
Right,
that
that's
is.
what I was about to say.
Yeah.
Nice. Did it do better once you added the title in?
Yes, but the damage was done because I didn't notice until like 45 minutes after I'd done it. It was one of the
damn.
situations where I just clicked post and I went, fuck it, I'm leaving. And it was the wrong video to do that on.
At least it wasn't on your big channels, though. That's something. Nice. Well, speaking of which, I have no topics prepared for today.
Nice.
That does it for the Blue Banana podcast this week. Thank
Well, thank you
for
very much for
stopping
tuning in
by.
today. Yeah.
I'm gonna sign out before Manu's pocket lights die anyways.
I'm just gonna say, like, because I'm seeing myself recording on camera right now, and it's looking surprisingly decent.
For now.
It looks good from where from where I am anyways. I thought it looked good.
It'd be pretty embarrassing if it looked better than the last one we did.
It might actually look better than the last. I could blame it on my expensive equipment in Japan, or I could just blame it on myself for not being able to use it properly. I'm gonna blame it on the equipment.
Yeah, it's always the equipment's fault. It's
That
like
is it's clearly technical difficulties.
exactly.
I'm perfect.
For the first year that I was making like Joy Girl videos, I wasn't changing any of the camera settings, like wasn't playing around with like ISO, shutter speed or anything, and still was brave enough to do a face cam and to do face reveal and have a big just like face only videos. I think I did about like at least 10 face only videos before I really started playing around with lighting and ISO and all that. So, but definitely still a technical problem.
I feel like, not to take a lot of credit here, but I feel like I introduced you to a lot of those features. Because we did
Definitely.
a collaboration very early on where we built the Going Merry. So you were setting up the camera, and I think you asked me the question of, oh man, why is this so dark? I can't make it brighter. And we were in this super bright room with bright lights on, and I think I just walked around to the camera, just went like click, 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 and it was boom.
That sounds
That's-
about right.
And that's the day we taught you about ISO and f-stops and shutter speed. Or is it frame? Yeah.
I mean, I think I already shared the story about the audio, about Audacity, and me not even having switched on to the proper mic that I was using.
Oh, I think you might have
You
shared
have,
that
yes.
story. That was
That
pretty
was
damn
hilarious.
hilarious. That was genuinely funny.
I'm sure there are still tens of, like, millions of things that I'm doing wrong in my setup. I'm quite convinced.
Yeah, all of us are. Like, I'm sure there's a ton that I'm doing wrong as well.
Oh, we're always learning. I feel like that's the fun
Yes.
part about YouTube in general, though. Learning about how to use a camera, learning how to present yourself on camera, how to, communicate a topic you're passionate about in an interesting way, so it's also interesting for other people, and so on and so forth, creating thumbnails and titles, and in general, there's so many aspects to this. I feel like that's what kind of makes it fun, though. Like, you learn about so many different things, which is something I always hoped of getting a job. Well, to be fair, in my case at least, and I guess for you, Sophie, maybe as well. Are you full-time right now,
No, I'm part-time. Well,
YouTube?
no, I'm part-time YouTube. Well, how do you count
Okay.
full-time YouTube? Would you count full-time YouTube? Because,
If that's your livelihood.
no, it's part-time. I don't make enough. I would like it to be, but
Or if you weren't working like another job alongside of it, or didn't
Right.
need to, I suppose.
I probably spend as much time doing YouTube as all my other jobs, but it doesn't generate enough income for me to consider that to be my full-time job.
Fair enough. So it's like extreme
That's right.
part-time.
Yeah, exactly.
Extreme part,
and to put that in context for you, I work 3 other jobs.
including this podcast now.
Actually, well, then excluding
That's the
this
fourth.
podcast. So yeah, 4th.
That's the 4th one.
Yeah.
Well, for me, at least, for me personally, like, I never had that experience where I can talk about my jobs before YouTube, because this is literally my first job. I think I started this while I was doing my master's.
Really?
So I was doing part-time and stuff, obviously, but, like, I never joined a company in that sense. Like, I did part-time and just regular, like, student work.
So you have like
yeah.
no concept of employment.
Well, I mean, I've done, like, internships and stuff like that, and I know that I don't like offices, so that was my main takeaway.
There are jobs that don't involve offices.
Like working in the canals, for example.
Yes, like
Or
working in the
theatre.
canals, or theater, perhaps.
Yeah.
Right. You don't have an office in the theater.
I mean, there are offices, but I was never in one because I was a lighting technician and stage manager and programmer, so I was never in an office. I was always just in giant Casimir rooms.
And yet you're not in the theater anymore.
No.
I mean, like my point being is like I think there are a lot of things that I'm really interested in doing, and YouTube is just a way for me to learn and do many things I find interesting at once, so I can talk about things I'm passionate about and learn how to use cameras and learn how to do graphic design with thumbnails and learn how to do marketing. Well, I mean, both of us did study marketing, so I guess that's
but
one
practicing
advantage we have. But
it,
still,
which is
the
very
practicing
different
it,
to
yeah.
studying it.
Yeah, and writing and all these things. I think like that's what I genuinely
Running
enjoy
a
is, like,
business and producing. Like, this sort of YouTubey job is kind of like an amalgamation of 10 other jobs, just sort of slapped
yeah,
together.
it's fun. No, and I do enjoy it a lot.
I know that you enjoy like photography, not just for YouTube, but you actually enjoy photography as well, Manu. So is that something that you got into after YouTube then?
With YouTube, I'd say.
Okay.
So when I started YouTube and like after like 4 or 5 videos, I realized that I would probably just stick with it no matter how it would go. I wanted to learn about cameras, and I think I did have like a basic, like it was like an Olympus, a small one, like a camera that I used to, but like I never did like professional or like never really studied it until I started YouTube. And then I really got into it, and I was like, and I think in the end it translated really well into YouTube as well, because I went out and I really played around and like learning what it means to play around with the ISO, what it means to play around with shutter speed, or how frame rates work, and so on and so forth, depth of field, different lenses. And it kind of snowballed into both me enjoying photography now for the last 3 or 4 years, and then also luckily it being useful for YouTube as well.
You've done pretty amazingly. I just assumed you had a background in photography.
Me too.
Because you just
That's
sort
why I
of
asked.
came
Thank you.
straight into the YouTube scene and you were like, fucking quality. You were just jizzing quality all over the screen and making us all feel bad.
That's what we do. It's gonna be my new banner.
Jizzing quality.
Oh, horror. Jizzing quality. I
It's
like that
true,
a lot.
Like, in terms of just raw visuals, you were and still are like a huge step above everyone else in our niche. It's insane to think that you sort of evolved that alongside YouTube.
Yeah, but it was also something that was kind of my... Well, first of all, thank you. I appreciate it. I personally think it's still far off from what I would want things to look like. But one of the things was in the anime niche. Like, as you know, it's still a very big niche, and, you know, a lot of people in there. It's hard to get your foot in because a lot of people are doing similar things and imitating bigger creators. And as a small creator, it felt really almost impossible, I feel like, to break into that space. And so my idea was, I was really into like filmmaking stuff. Like I got into that with YouTube as well. I was like looking at how to make films and so on and so forth, and got really into a lot of photography channels, like classic like Peter McKinnon, and then like from there into like more niche channels as well. And that was something that genuinely interested me, like regardless of YouTube in general. And I kind of figured that, for example, the anime community itself has surprisingly low quality production standards compared to most of YouTube. I think like there's like, depending on the game, some gaming niches also have like relatively low standards for like production, but anime definitely is one of the lowest production and lowest effort niches I could find or was involved in. Like obviously vlogs become more and more cinematic than photography in itself. Like that niche is obviously has to be professional, but even like beauty stuff, like if it doesn't look good on camera, and if you can't use a camera, then like you're not going to be a good beauty channel, because even if you're really good at makeup, if it looks weird and you have like weird lighting, it's not going to really translate. So like most major established niches have a really high production value, at least on a higher subscriber level, which was kind of absent, and please disagree with me, I feel like still is relatively absent in parts of the anime community, even like on a larger level. And so that kind of became like a differentiating factor for me, where I was like, okay, I overdid it a bit. I think at the beginning I had like B-roll sections that were a bit uncalled for, but it was still fun experimenting with it. But I was trying to give like a pleasing visual experience, have it like look professional, have it like give it that feel that, okay, this is like someone who knows what they're talking about. This is, you know, something a bit more watchable, quote unquote. And so
I'm gonna have to agree with you, Manu, and I can't say for the entire anime YouTube community because I must confess that I don't watch much aside from One Piece YouTube videos, and even then I don't really watch all of our fellow One Piece content creators.
Who do you watch? Who do you watch, Sophie?
I definitely don't watch that guy, what is it, the Grand Line Review? I don't know. I don't even know who that is. Yeah, I think he has the lowest amount of subscribers at the moment. That's not where I thought that was going.
Me neither, but we're there now.
Yeah.
we're
You can
there.
claim
We're
it. You
there
can claim
all the
it.
way.
Do definitely agree that with your videos, I think that's when a lot of people's production quality really started to rise. And I think a testament to that is ever since I started playing around with lights, started adding, you know, different colored lights into my videos, I've had a consistent commenter who keeps commenting on my videos saying, we don't need a female Ohara. And I'm guessing that that's what he means, that maybe with the rise of my production quality that I am now channeling your YouTube channel. So I'm going to interpret that because otherwise I don't know what that means.
That would be hilarious if just having a decent visual setup would be like plagiarizing my content.
Imitating Ohara.
How dare you? How dare
Exactly.
you rip Ohara's content? by
Imagine
having-
if your brand was just quality and no one else was able to access that.
dare you? It's such a ripoff.
How dare you improve?
You're not filming with a potato.
I can kind of see it though, because you two have similar sorts of setups where you've got like a whole room behind you with lots of depth and stuff. So at a very surface level, I can sort of see the similarity.
A lot of people have rooms though.
They do. But like, for example, I have a flat wall against me, and other people have big spacious rooms like you two, but they don't light them. You two are the only ones who have rooms and light them.
I mean, I can see where you're coming from.
How are you gonna explain that, Sophie?
In that sense, I'd have to say that I'm probably copying both of you in that case, because the way that my videos are set up is half of it is the soundproofing, I guess would be channeling you, Liam, and then the other half is the rest of my room, which I guess is channeling you, Manu.
That is smart.
Just a copycat. I have no originality.
You're like our YouTube love child.
Exactly. If Manu and Liam...
Welcome to Manu, where we talk about theories and analysis.
That is true, actually. I also discuss both theory and analysis, so...
I mean, I think that's completely fair. I think that's just normal, because like on YouTube, it's about stealing smartly. It's about not copying people one-to-one, but like taking things you like. But I think that goes for life in general. Like learn from people you admire and like learn from things. Take things you think are good and apply them to your own setting.
There's a saying for this. There's this beautiful book called How to Steal Like an Artist, which is a mantra amongst theater makers. It's just what you do. Works for any art
That's how you get
form.
better.
What's the book? I'll just reply to that commenter with a link to that book every time.
It's called Steal Like an Artist.
I'm an artist,
Leon.
dear commenter.
In regards to quality in the anime community, I agree with you. It's if the rest of YouTube is up here, the anime community is still in kind of like a juvenile phase when it comes to quality. However, there's a big benefit in that, which is that if you're looking to get into YouTube, right now, still pretty low barriers to entry in the anime niche. You could hop in and take
By the way,
off.
one thing I would say is that like, even though there was a lot of dick sucking on our part right now,
Never enough.
yeah, never enough. But like we're all paying attention to quality. But I would say like for myself, for example, if I compare myself to professional YouTubers in other niches, I'm still very much beginner level when it comes to like I'm still watching tutorials how to put up my lights properly, how to light up my face properly. Do I need a full light here to like make it not so dark, and so on and so forth. So this is very much for many YouTube communities. Or professional YouTubers. This is very much basic stuff that we're all still figuring out right now. Just because there is just not that drive also where you're not getting punished really for not having good visuals, good transitions, and so on and so forth. But I think that will change over time.
I think it's definitely starting to change because a lot of newer One Piece content creators that I see coming in now, I feel like where they started is at a much higher quality production level than when I started, for example.
And you were already at a much higher level than when I started, so...
I would say that probably also is because the people you pay attention to are the people that, like, that's the level it takes to actually break out of the 100, 200, 300.
They're all imitating O'Hara these days, aren't they?
Yeah.
Really?
They're
With
all
their
just
quality.
It's just this high quality. It's like my anime videos are just so cinematic. You can roll that in the no, but it's difficult, but it's still fun figuring it out. And I think we've talked about this before, that audio is arguably the most important thing that you can, and it's true. I think if you have a good microphone, you can, even if it's voiceover, right? Like, that can be a good video, but nonetheless, me personally, since I at least do this professionally now, I do want to give it at least that attention to detail, if that makes sense, and try to like improve in that regard. And I know you guys feel the same way.
Completely agreed. I think I'm just maybe 30% less driven than you are in that regard.
Okay, you're driven in other directions.
Same direction, just slower. Just getting there slower.
Oh, but then you're way more driven when it comes to actually producing content on a like consistent basis. Like, this is something I've struggled with.
I do like making stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I do like making stuff as well. I just can't do it at the speed you do. You have like your system.
I'm a furious writing machine. Awkward transition.
Exactly. Awkward transition. So, Minor, you're back in Europe, which I know we did touch on, but is this the first trip that you've been able to go on since COVID?
I've actually not been back home in 13 or 14 months, which I know for some people that I know in Japan, they're like, oh yeah, I haven't been home in 4 years. And I'm like, well, you must not like your family. Now I know where you're in Japan. No, but like, for me, it was last year. When I moved back to Japan, my plan was, okay, I'm gonna maybe come like 2 weeks in summer, and then I'm definitely gonna be there for Christmas. And it was just not possible last year with COVID, because Japan had these really strict regulations. Well, I was really lucky. I slipped in. There was like a 1 month window in 2020. Between like October, November, where it was possible to get a student visa. And actually, like 4 days before I flew back to Japan, they canceled all visas and were like, you can't come back in. But since mine was already picked up and in my passport, they were like, well, till the 29th or something, you can still fly. And I was flying on the 29th. So I was like, wow, that was a close call.
So lucky.
Because I literally started applying for everything the day it was possible. And even though they worked through it really fast within like 2 weeks, like still, I just barely made it in. And I know like 2 other people who had like the same experience. So that was really lucky. And I know a lot of people who were like stuck outside of Japan now, waiting to, get in for a student visa or just for work. And now slowly they're opening up again, and at least not for tourists, but at least as like a person who's gonna work or study in Japan, they're starting to let people back in, which is a bit overdue. Like, I was actually reading an interesting article on that. Apparently, they knew it was kind of stupid and pointless to not let people with visas into the country, but apparently it was so popular with the Japanese population that the prime minister was just like, well, until the election, we're gonna keep this up. And like, in the end, there was too much pressure from like businesses and the economy overall. But I'm like, that's such a stupid. I mean,
is the Japanese population really just like that homogenistically nationalist? That they're like taking any excuse to isolate themselves?
My impression is it's probably a mix between that and also people just being very politically uninterested. And I think the people who have an influence on politics, which is usually older people or older men who actually like doing politics there, I think those are the people who probably are like, oh, no foreigners, that's probably good if there's a virus going around, because they're all just gonna infect all Japanese people. So I think there's like, I think the cross section of like critical voters is just older people with like a more nationalist, who don't mind isolating themselves from the world again, quote unquote. That so that's just my personal political, unprofessional opinion.
It was popular with the politically engaged segment of the population. In your professional opinion as a Japanese political...
Excluding the people who were actually doing international business, of course. But so yeah, it's difficult. Politics in Japan in general, I'm not sure if you're familiar with this, but in Japan, actually, the same party has ruled since World War II, except one time, I think, for like a year or two, and then back to the same party.
I love how you say ruled. It sounds very like
just
archaic and
yeah,
Draconian.
like a monarchy.
Yeah.
Well, if it's always one party, it's kind of a one-party rule. I mean, yeah, they're governing, but really, like whenever I talk to my Japanese friends about politics, and not many of them are really interested in it, but the ones who are, they're always like, yeah, I don't see anything about that. Like, even if they fuck up, what they do is they switch people inside the party, and they like have a lot of like cabal inside the party, but actually having a different government or like going away from like a conservative government does not seem to be a realistic possibility in the next years.
That must be really strange for you, because what I know, like my very limited knowledge of German politics, is I don't think you guys even, it's very rare that you guys have one party governing. It's usually a coalition.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, that is true. I mean, we have our own problems with the German politics, obviously, and
there's never been a problem in German politics. No.
Yes. For the last 300 years, it has been pretty much smooth sailing.
Shining beacon of democracy.
Yeah.
No, but yeah, like I think there's a lot of issues also with like obviously no political system is correct, but I think other than, for example, Japan or like the US or UK, after the war, we don't have that sort of strong patriotism that many other countries have, or France, for example, also. So as a German, when I first actually lived internationally and like with international people and abroad, it was really interesting to me. I was like kind of uncomfortable with how patriotic certain people or most people were about their country, which is like, I'm still cheering for Germany in the World Cup, but that's basically as far as it goes. And even then, when people are waving around German flags, like if people are waving around German flags outside the World Cup or a major sporting event, it's kind of like people are kind of getting uncomfortable about that. Whereas like my American roommates like have probably like a flag in the, I'm not sure, I'm actually not sure if they have a flag in the room, but like I know I have American friends who have like flags. It's normal, right? You have like the American flag. And so for me as a German, that's really weird. And going back to the party thing, I think that is actually a healthy thing compared to, for example, having just two parties or just one party. The negative side, or what people usually think is the downside of having so many parties, is that it's really hard to actually make decisions. But I don't think that's the case, because we have a 5% hurdle. So you need to get 5% to even get into parliament. So it's not like I start a party now and I'm in parliament with like my one-person party. So you do have to reach a significant amount of the population. And then usually the situation is that one party does not have the majority. So you have to form a coalition with another party that usually has a very different ideological perspective on things.
It's very similar to us. Our, what was the word you used? Our ruling government for the past long time now, for the better part of the past 2 decades, is they're actually called the Coalition, and it's a group of conservative parties. We have our Liberal Party, and we have our Nationals that form that coalition. Even within conservative circles, they have radically differing ideologies, which from my point of view does stall things quite a bit. It makes it very difficult to get things done when even your one governing coalition can't really agree on anything.
It's interesting because I would say that also, like I would say from my experience as, witnessing my like parents, witnessing, my, I guess, Korean side, I would say that Australians are very, very apolitical. And I think compared to a lot of the rest of the world, Australians as a whole is like, they're very apolitical. I would actually say, like, I'd probably bet that there's a lot of people in the Australian population who don't actually realise that the Liberal National Party is actually a coalition of 2 parties.
I would agree with you.
I think a lot of people would just assume that they are actually just one party, maybe called the LNP.
Yeah, because that's how they're always referred to. The LNP,
exactly.
Or the coalition. It's like they're just one party.
Is it like a coalition that has been going on for a couple of years now, or?
Long
ages.
time. Longer than I can remember. It makes them very hard to defeat as well, because the other parties don't generally form those coalitions.
That's interesting, yeah. I mean, I think, for example, our Conservative Party was in Germany, has been ruling for quite a while now, and there was always like a big coalition between the big 2 parties, like the Social Democrats and the Conservative Party. They had, I think, 2 governments in a row, but now actually the Conservatives are out for the first time in a while. So it's a really interesting situation now, because we have the Green Party, the Liberals, and the Social Democratic Party, which is obviously a lot of a lot of contrary ideas, but at the same time, I think a lot of people are hoping that that might actually bring some change to the country. So I'm curious how things are going to go.
Very
Cool.
They're trying to legalize weed, which is at least something I can get behind.
Yeah, how was your trip to Amsterdam?
Yes, I did go to Amsterdam with 2 friends here, which was a good weekend. We picked 2 days, both days. So I'm not sure. Oh, you probably don't know because you're in Australia, but like
We have days.
No, we don't.
Australia. So we had like a season of like storms recently in Europe, and 2 really strong ones. One hit on Friday, which was the time we flew to Amsterdam, and on Sunday, which was when we came back from Amsterdam. So I had 2 of my wildest flights in my life the past weekend. So on Friday was really like the pilot was like, yeah, it's really stormy. I'm going to be honest with all of you. I'm not sure if we're going to make it. If not, we're just going to land somewhere else. And I was like, that sounds not very promising. Like, he was really talkative about it as well. He went like, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not sure if you saw the Winter Olympics this morning, but just like with the biathlon, if the wind's too strong, we might have to do a few extra rounds. And if that doesn't work, we're just going to stop and go somewhere else. I was like, wow, this is not good. And so we took off, and it was already super stormy. So like the plane was like falling down and then like just waving around. And when we landed, he did a really good job landing the plane. But what was really weird, like, have you ever experienced that when the plane is on the ground, standing, and people are like starting to like stand up and like everything is getting ready so you can get off the plane? The wind was so strong in Amsterdam that the plane was just like moving while we were standing, which was
never
really scary.
experienced that.
Yeah.
Sounds bizarre.
So it was a good time.
It was a good time.
Not scary
Good
at all.
landing there. The flight back was also a bit similar, but not as bad. But still pretty windy.
But while you were there, though, like Amsterdam is one of my favorite cities I've ever been to. I would love to go back, and I was incredibly jealous when you said that you just, popped down for a couple of days. It's,
Yeah.
Yeah.
not really something we're capable of doing anywhere except within Australia.
To be fair, I had a really funny moment with my friends because I was asking, how long are we going to fly for? Like 30, 40 minutes? And they were like, no, it's like an hour and 10. And I was offended. I was like, that's so long. I genuinely thought it was going to be shorter. But then I guess for people who are not living inside Europe, that's like still very close.
Well, to put it in context, I went to a different state over the weekend, and that flight was an hour and a half.
The state that immediately borders
Yeah,
our state, by
exactly.
the way, to the north.
I mean, you guys are a continent, so.
We are.
Oh,
in contrast, for me to get to Amsterdam, it took, I had to spend 14 hours getting to Dubai. Then
I was going to say
another
layover.
7 hours, 8,
It's
9 hours to
14
get
hours
to
to
London. And then it's a long time, man. It's a long time. I don't think you understand where Australia is. If the world is here,
No.
Australia's off camera over here.
I think the only place that might be further from Germany than Australia might be Hawaii.
That's very
Possibly. But
Very interesting.
that might be wrong. But I feel like because that is going to be not only all the way to Japan, but then it's also halfway into the Pacific Ocean.
I
So
can
I'm like,
see
that
Liam
might be
furiously
further.
typing, looking at a map.
Yeah, it's gonna apparently
Ready
it
to
would take
fact check,
about
fact
somewhere
check.
between 18 to 20 hours, which is
Okay. To Australia.
equitable. No, to Hawaii. Germany to Hawaii. Germany to Australia flight. It should be a bit shorter actually than getting to London anyway. 17 hours.
I think that's the longest, one of the longest flights you can take is I think from Frankfurt or London to Sydney.
Yeah, I've got this one up here from Frankfurt to Sydney.
I was actually going to do an exchange to Germany when I was a uni student. I actually did a semester in learning German for that purpose to prep myself.
Hit me.
The only thing I remember is Ich spreche Deutsch, which is a lie.
Yeah.
The one thing you can't say.
Something that turned me off, I have to admit, is that I went to a German restaurant, and I love
Australia?
cultural. Yes, it was a German restaurant in Australia, and
We have
something
some
that
And you
I
were like,
ordered-
not going to
we do have
Germany.
some- it was one thing that really disappointed me was a German dumpling. You know, my idea of dumpling is, the very
yeah.
Asian style dumpling,
Yeah. No.
filled with, lots of like
Pork or
meat or
something, yeah, yeah.
vegetables, exactly. And when I bit into it, it was just more bread.
Oh, that sounds
Yeah, it's like there's different
amazing.
types. We also have potato ones. I mean, dumpling is a bit of a. I think that's just a translation for lack of a better
Yeah,
term for it.
I won't blame the Germans. I'll
You
blame
didn't go
this
to Germany because you didn't.
I was
you
going to
would've-
say,
Like, I didn't
you
like
changed the
German dumplings.
entire course of your
Exactly,
life
that's-
based
I
on a
was-
dumpling.
I changed the entire my entire course. I was like, no, I'm not gonna do my international studies. I don't want to do exchange to Germany.
That's it. I'm becoming a lawyer.
No, exactly. These dumplings taste horrible. No, but I would actually still love to go to Germany. I just decided that I wouldn't like to do it on exchange. I'd prefer to just chillax and spend maybe a year abroad rather than having to study abroad.
In the meantime, we should go to a really nice German restaurant at the Rocks. Like the, was it the Bavarian Cafe?
Yeah, the Bavarian.
It's fantastic. If that wasn't the
Yes.
place that had the dumpling that offended you, that is.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't. It was a very fancy. I don't know. It was a very fancy restaurant, and I think I blamed that. Really, you can never
Bavaria,
trust fancy
coincidentally, the state
restaurants.
I'm from.
I'm sorry. So this restaurant was also copying Manu with its quality?
Exactly.
Oh my god. Now restaurants are
German.
plagiarizing you.
Terrible. How dare they? I invented quality.
Oh, now that's a quote.
That's the title.
Oh, let's not make it the title, maybe.
Maybe the thumbnail. Maybe just the thumbnail.
Oh yeah, just a thumbnail. I invented quality. This is a quality video. But it was fun in general. Like we had like more driving experiences. So on the way actually to the airport, we took like an airport limousine, like a bus, and that guy was just going ridiculously fast on the left lane, like just like blinking at people and like music on blast, and like everyone in the bus was just like.
When you say on
Because
the
usually
left,
it takes. Oh yeah, on the like overtaking people because we have right side traffic. As do you.
yeah, we drive in the left lane.
We drive on the left lane and rights for overtaking.
Yeah.
Other way around here. We're more the normal model, not the imperial model,
Wow.
the colonial British
Colon-
model,
You and your colonial traffic models.
Commonwealth. But yeah, no. So that was funny. And then like in Amsterdam itself, we had like 2 or 3 very, let's say, aggressive, for lack of a stronger word, maybe having a death wish like Uber driver. Yeah, it was really ridiculous. He was like speeding in the curves with like, I don't know, 130 kilometers an hour, like going like this. Like, terrible.
But it got you there faster.
Yeah, well, we were at the airport faster than expected. Yeah.
Did you ride any bikes?
No, it was actually very stormy on Saturday, and on Sunday it started raining. But we did go to a museum, to the Rijksmuseum, I think is how you pronounce that.
I've been there. The Rijksmuseum?
Yeah, it's lovely.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a beautiful
Rijksmuseum,
museum.
whatever it's pronounced.
They
Yeah.
have like a little
That-
activity book that you can do. It's good fun.
Nice. I just know they have like there's like a Rembrandt and Van Gogh and stuff like that. So yeah, it's a good
Art.
museum.
We also went to the Museum of Prostitution, which was quite good fun. They've got like a
Nice.
little a red window that you can stand in front of and take touristy photos at. It was cool.
Be like, look how fuckable I look. Rate me, people.
Don't rate any of us, by the way.
Had to establish that.
I just wanted to put that boundary in place.
The comments are just 5.
No, the comments like 5, 7, 3, but they don't say who's who.
Tell who.
Yeah, no, not true. Yeah.
It's a guessing game.
It's like between us, there's 1 7. Ugh.
Probably Sophie.
With 3.
I would never claim the 7, so
That would be 15 out of 30. Would be
neither.
5. Would be an average of 5 out of 10.
an average.
We would average.
We're just gonna average it out. Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's also like a red light district in Amsterdam as well. Is that what the museum is?
Really? Yeah, that's exactly where the museum
Okay.
is. We spent quite a
Which
bit
is,
of
I think-
time around there because there's a lot of yeah. We-
There is so much to
Yeah.
do.
It's
Seriously,
a lot of fun.
So many things you can try.
all of the best stuff is around the red light district because they've got a ton of museums and stuff there as well, and you can just
true.
rent a bike and go anywhere. It's fantastic. Yeah.
It's surprisingly close to the central station also.
Yeah, you practically just get off Central and cross the road and you're
Into
there.
the red light district.
You do. All right, so fun fact, I actually spent part of my honeymoon in Amsterdam in 2017. Yeah.
Nice.
And the other part was spending high. That did not make sense grammatically.
No, not at all.
It would be the same part, wouldn't it, if you were in Amsterdam?
It's true.
Part
They
was
sort
in
of
Amsterdam.
coalesced. a
Part
bit
above.
high above Amsterdam. Which we kind of
We
were,
talked
because by the time we got married, we were pretty much broke because we just spent a ton of money on the wedding. So our honeymoon was actually quite budget. Like we went to, I say budget, this is going to sound quite lavish. We went to Paris, England, Iceland, Amsterdam.
But it was on budget.
But it was all on an unimaginably tight budget, except for Amsterdam, because we decided that because it was our honeymoon, we need to have at least like, one good accommodation experience. So we got this
So you
really
got a nice hotel?
not a nice hotel. We got this amazing Airbnb apartment, which was like overlooking a canal, and it was just it was so Amsterdam. Perfect Amsterdam experience.
Did you smoke anything on your honeymoon?
I am not at liberty to say anything but yes.
Interesting. Yeah, I think we talked about this earlier. I was also like, when we went to that museum, I was like, this is art. Wow. Just sitting there for 2 hours. Wow.
I will say nothing happened when we went to the museums. It was all mostly just chilling around.
I can recommend that.
Well, we got heavily invested in the Rijksmuseum in particular, because like I said, they had those
That's beautiful.
activity books that they like take you around the museum. It's like a game. There are like questions to answer and things you've got to draw and different challenges to complete. It's like the most engaging museum I've ever been to.
It's fantastic, and they have so many different levels. So that you have like the medieval part. Sophie, for you maybe, because I guess you haven't been.
No, I've never been.
Yeah, so there's like you go from like the medieval period all the way to modern, and in between like you have obviously like famous Dutch painters and so on, like Van Gogh and Rembrandt and so on and so forth, but you also have a lot of like artifacts from like that period, from 15 or even 1400s all the way to and so for example, one part I really like is you have a whole exhibition part about the Dutch-Japanese relationship, because the Dutch were one of the, with the Portuguese, the first to actually were allowed to trade in Japan. And so there's a lot of like lacquered boxes and stuff like that from like Japanese made, which is really cool.
There are some statues as well, one of which we had to draw as part of the challenge. And I remember
drawing
thinking,
challenge
this is a lot like, this guy is like a lot like a Gear 4th Luffy sort of thing.
was like a Buddhist statue.
Like, what are they? Like the Neo Guards, but like not those, but sort of similar.
Yeah. Is it the one that look kind of like Onis and have like the palms out and stuff like that?
Yeah. But not those.
Yeah.
Similar to those.
Okay. Those are usually like guardian deities, I want to say, of like Buddhist shrines. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure they're called Neo. Like
Maybe.
N-I-O.
Neil?
Neil.
I've heard that before, but I don't want to. Oh, Neil.
No, Neo.
This is Neil. This is Kyle.
This is Neil.
They're guarding the shrine.
Yeah. Gear
My
5th.
guardian.
Neil.
Well, any trips you have done recently or planned?
I feel like that's a Sophie question as someone who went on a trip.
Yeah, I mean, I just came back from the Gold Coast, which was a lot of fun. My second time going up to Queensland, second time visiting the theme park. So for you, Manu, who I imagine is not very familiar with the theme parks in Queensland, and for the rest of our viewers.
Oh, no. It's part of my hobby.
Yeah, just learning about the theme
No,
parks.
just
in
researching them. Yeah.
Not going, just finding out about them.
Reading the Google reviews.
This one seems like fun. Well, there's a few of them. There's like Dreamworld, more based on, I suppose, it's the one that has a lot more roller coasters, essentially.
Yeah, it's a fairly generic theme park, but like, it's big.
It's massive. And Movie World is the one that is, I think, based off the Warner Brothers.
Yeah. It's sort of like the Australian imitation of a Warner Brothers backlot sort of thing.
And I wanted to go to Movie World because the last time that I went, I was in year 3. And I was, what you could say,
So
under
that's 7
the
or
average
8 years
height.
old.
Yeah, I was under the average height of the normal year 3 child, which
you
meant
would
that
not
I
have-
wasn't allowed to go on a lot of the rides.
Yeah, you definitely wouldn't have been allowed on the, what is it, the Scooby-Doo roller coaster that they have
I was
there?
allowed to go on the Scooby-Doo. That was the one
were
thing that I
you?
was allowed to go on. I wasn't allowed to go on the Superman, which was new at the time.
Did you just do that like 10 times in a row?
Exactly. And the line was massive.
Scooby-Dooing the entire day.
What? Exactly.
It sounds tame. It's actually a really fun roller coaster, actually.
It wasn't the one I wanted to be on. I wanted to be on Superman, where they were doing the crazy
Fair
flips.
enough, yeah.
Yep. And this time round, I was so adamant that I was gonna get to go on the Superman ride, but this time it was under maintenance, so I couldn't go on that either. Which is why I went to Dreamworld and not Movie World, because they had more rides available. And my friends discovered that I am actually a demon, because the entire time when we were doing all the rides, all my friends are screaming, their eyes closed, and I'm just like, yeah, this is fun. This is nice. Because I really enjoy rides, but I don't usually, I'm not someone who usually gets scared by a lot of things. It's the same with like horror movies. I enjoy them. I don't really get the whole jump scare. That doesn't have much of an effect on me. And so now my friends are just convinced that I'm made of steel.
Dead inside. Wait, you seem like a person who's into horror movies, are you?
I am, exactly. So I'm into horror
yeah,
movies,
you
but
were
I
basically,
don't get scared. And so I have the fun job of like tapping people in between, like when something's setting up.
Scaring
I'm like,
people?
Exactly.
I can appreciate that. I think that's pretty. That's what a good friend's supposed to do.
It's just enhancing their experience.
Giving it that 4D dimension.
Exactly.
Yeah. I don't know, with horror movies. Are you good with horror movies, Liam? Because like I can watch them. I just don't enjoy them. Does that make sense?
I used to be heavily into them as a teenager, like heavily. Between the ages of like 13 to 17, massive horror movie buff. And then in my early 20s, I started to stop caring about them.
People dying.
It just became like an increasingly brutal contest to see who or how brutally you can kill someone, and that's a horror movie, which to me isn't the kind of horror that I really grew up enjoying. I prefer more of the suspenseful sort of stuff. The stuff where you've got like a really slow burn movie that just gradually gets a little bit scarier until there's like a big climax.
Yeah.
And that's kind of that. Like the most recent horror movie I really enjoyed seeing was The Witch. If either of you have seen that.
No, I haven't.
Yeah, no.
Well, then I won't say anything, but watch it. I think you'll really enjoy it, Sophie, if you enjoy it. Well, I guess it depends. Are you more of a slasher kind of?
It's not really horror, but I enjoy psychological thrillers a lot more as well.
So you're not watching Saw for breakfast with your cereal?
Yeah, just...
I think Saw is what started this whole trend
Yeah.
of just horror movies just becoming
Brutal.
graphic and nothing else. Yeah, it's not the kind of thing I really enjoy too much.
Like I said, I barely watch them because I do not get that much enjoyment out of them. I'd rather have like a good action or like drama. But one really good one I watched recently that's not that young anymore. It's like it plays in Sweden, and what is it called? They're in the woods and there's this old like Scandinavian Viking god thing. What is it called? That was really good. Let me look it up.
Scandinavian Viking god.
Oh, The Ritual.
I think what I really enjoy is when they're mixed with mystery. Like it's a group of people who have stumbled upon the unknown, and it's about just kind of uncovering what this terrifying thing is, as opposed to like being chased by a dude with a knife or something.
Like the first season of Stranger Things or something like that. Count as
Sort
horror,
of,
does it?
but yeah, I would not count that as horror.
But you might like that one then, Liam. You should check it out. Because that is kind of in that
Ritual.
direction.
I'll check it out also. My problem is that I don't like to watch horror movies alone, because part of my enjoyment is witnessing other people get scared.
It's like, it's not I don't want to watch them alone because I'm scared. It's I want to see other people suffer.
That's very sadistic, yeah.
Whereas my friends no longer want to watch horror movies with me.
I was gonna say, I'm not sure if I would, because you would just be deliberately trying to enhance my experience.
We should put that on the bucket list then. If I come to Australia, you come to Japan, we're gonna watch a horror movie.
An enhanced experience.
I feel like
An
a
enhanced
Japanese horror movie would be
Oh.
pretty terrifying though.
Some of them are really bad, yeah. Terrifying. Some of them are also badly made, of course, but like some of them are really.
But to some of them, that plays to their benefit because I think horror movies you can really get away with sort of crummy production quality because it almost makes it feel more real, like it's a regular person.
I mean, that was
sort
the
of,
whole
Blair
appeal of
Witch
the
effect.
Blair Witch, exactly. Yeah.
A movie which is pretty much exactly what I was talking about, this like super slow burn to a climax and then stop.
I mean, like, for example, like that shaky cam thing and stuff like that has been getting really popular in recent years, I feel. Or that handheld feel, quote unquote.
Or like Paranormal Activity before they took it way too far.
Yeah.
What was that one? That was also good. It's also like an older movie. Like, was it Cloverfield? You watched that?
Yes.
I thought that was good.
But it was cool, yeah. It was a nice
first
little
one, at least.
spin on the,
Yeah.
They also made a linked movie. What was it? Cloverfield Lane with John Goodman.
Yeah, I did not see that because I think it had really bad reviews, as far as I remember. What's your favorite horror movie then, Sophie?
That's a good question. It would actually be a Korean one. But it's a terrible... I'm gonna have to get back to you guys on that because I don't know the title of it. But I remember watching
Do you know
it
it
when
in
I was...
Korean?
No, that's what I'm saying. I don't remember because it was
okay.
when I watched it when I was quite young with my sisters.
Korean horror movies. I thought they only do like rom-coms.
That's
In
Korean
Korea.
dramas.
I'm just kidding. It's becoming really popular recently as well, though. Like in Japan, Korean drama, like that's 80% of Netflix, I feel, in Japan.
Korean drama, really? Yeah, all my friends have started watching a lot more Korean dramas as well. They definitely watch more Korean dramas than I do. I went through a phase when I really liked Korean dramas. It was just after I finished high school, just before I started uni, like that long break period, because I didn't go overseas, whereas most of my friends were taking a bit of a break going overseas and traveling. I spent all my time just watching so much Korean dramas, exactly. Just sort of like me with One Piece now, maybe when I was catching up to One Piece, but with Korean dramas. Now I try to watch one a year, but that's mostly because it's something that I do with my mum, and I just try to like, you know, something that we can talk about together. But lately, mum watches the episodes without me, and so I haven't been doing that either. Because we'd start a Korean drama together, and because I'm like, maybe if I'm busy, I won't have time to watch the next episode with her. I'd find out that she's about 5-6 episodes ahead. I just give up.
How dare you, Joy Mom? How dare you? That's always the pain of trying to watch something with someone else, though. Like, my wife and I have tried to watch things together, and it just doesn't work. Because you need that exact schedule, and someone's always going to go ahead. It's usually going to be me.
When do you watch things?
When do you have the time to watch things?
We're talking about, like, the pre-YouTube days. Like, sort of
okay.
Game of Thrones in its peak kind of days.
I have really fallen out of love with TV shows over the recent years, I feel. I had like a phase also, like high school, early college, where I would watch literally anything that you would throw. Like, hell yeah, like, what was it? Like, obviously back like 10 years ago, 15 years, like, was like How I Met Your Mother, Scrub, like all these things. And then like go into like other, like when Game of Thrones started and Breaking Bad, all these things. I feel like recently, maybe it's just because there's too much, or like, it's really hard to pick a show and be like, oh, this one is, everyone says it's good. Because there's always so much noise about everything. I have a hard time, or maybe it's because we're all just getting used to like more short format content, like as YouTubers and like everyone watching YouTube, maybe you're just like into that 15 minutes. Because it's weird to, I have a hard time getting into a show that's 40 minutes per episode, but at the same time, once I get into something, I wish it were longer. Does that make sense? Like, for example, with some animes, like the last Demon Slayer season, I was like, I wish if these were like 40-minute episodes, that would be great. But then probably I would not get into it in the first place if it was that long at the beginning.
From the perspective of the job that I do, I really appreciate 8 40-minute episodes because it's something feasible that I can complete. Like, watching something like Squid Game, that was really easy. That's like 2 days of my life, or 2 nights essentially. Whereas if it goes much longer, like the way television used to, where it was like 25 episode seasons, I used to binge that stuff like mad in high school, but I just would not be able to do it now.
And there would be like a couple of series that I'd be following at the same time. So you'd watch one episode of this, one episode right after another episode. But I also think it's sort of the way we would consume TV or the way we consume media now. You know, I don't watch it on the television anymore, or it's not through TV. It's usually through Netflix. Or usually,
for example, we don't even
site.
own a television at our house. It just doesn't exist. Yeah.
Interesting.
Haven't for like 5 years. We watch everything through a computer monitor.
Well, where I live in Japan right now, we do have a TV, but for the longest time, like the only thing I would watch on TV was sports.
That's true, yeah.
Yeah.
I can't speak for other sports because I think like in the US and stuff, like the sports culture is different, but like I used to be like a huge soccer fan.
Stereotypical European.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not sure European. I feel like that's almost all of the world, except like maybe Australia,
Except
US, Canada.
Australia.
Yeah. But like, I mean, Africa, South America, Europe, large part of Asia, like
Korea's
soccer is a really
definitely
big thing,
very
right?
invested into soccer as
Yeah,
well.
I'm not sure if you can relate to that. You're into basketball, right, Sophie? Yeah, but that might be different. But like in Europe recently, everything has been so commercialized, and there's always like there's a game every single day. So it's kind of like stopped being something special. While before you would really care and like cheer on your team, and like it would really mean something to win a title, right? Like it all blurs. Like the seasons just blur into each other, and it's kind of loses like its appeal. And then you have like a couple of clubs who have so much money, they're backed by like people from the Middle East and like people who pump millions and hundreds of millions of dollars and euros into these clubs, where there's just no competition, no realistic chance for like smaller clubs to actually catch up, or not even like winning, not even a thing, but like even catch up to that level, which kind of makes it like harder and harder for me. And I know a lot of friends of mine who are like really into soccer to keep up with it, which is sad because it's a great sport. Is your experience with basketball different there?
I was gonna say, I think there is definitely a level of that in basketball as well. Some teams have a lot more money, behind them, like the Lakers, for example, compared to some other teams. So I think there is definitely a level of that. But I don't know. I think I still enjoy it nonetheless. Something that's been really fun for me this season or this year is I started a fantasy basketball team with some people in my Discord server, and
Nice.
so but there's no money involved. I said that they could win a Goldie Roger figure, but I don't think many people have been invested because I think I might be coming number 1 in our leaderboard. So I'm obviously the only one that's
Congrats
really
on your
paying attention.
future
Thank
figure.
you. Yeah, I
Wow.
could just gift
Are you
it to
excited
myself.
about that figure?
Exactly. Something that I had to experience over the last weekend was so much drinking because it was my best
I just
friend.
had to experience.
I did because it's
Terrible.
my best friend and her family who are all huge drinkers, and I am the exact opposite of that. Like if you see me, I'm a small Asian girl. I get the Asian flush
Do you get
very
Asian
badly.
flush?
Exactly, that's exactly what I was about to say.
Oh my god.
And my best friend and her whole family, they were all Tongans. Big Islander family who were just such huge drinkers who didn't even understand what the Asian flush was. And I think I tried explaining to them that it is actually sort of like an allergy because we lack an enzyme, I think, that breaks down the alcohol, which is why I get red. And her cousin, my best friend's cousin, was just like, so if it's an allergy, then don't drink. Is it hurting you? Just don't drink. And I was like, I wish I could just stop drinking, but then the other half of her family were like, you must keep drinking. You cannot fall behind.
So in case you haven't heard of this before, Asian flush is when your Asian friends drink a little bit of alcohol and suddenly can function as a functioning traffic light.
But only one directive, yeah.
Only one, yeah. It's like,
Bright red.
Stop.
do you get it really bad?
It's all over my chest, all over my thighs. It gets bad.
I've never heard of thigh flush.
Really?
That's crazy.
No, it goes all the way down to my thighs if it gets bad, if I really don't stop. It depends on what you drink as well. So certain drinks set you off a lot worse than
Shochu?
others I've set off. Soju
what
sets
is
me
it?
off. It's usually wine. Wine and beers really set me off. I think it's the preservatives that they use. There used to be a pill that you could take. It was a Zantac, which is an antihistamine. But they've had to recall that because it was linked to cancer. And so it's just the risk, Do I risk cancer or do I suffer the Asian flush?
I mean, to be fair, I think that's a really good. You probably have a really good cost performance ratio, no?
That is true. That is very true.
You're an easy drunk.
Exactly. 2 drinks and that's
Kind of
fine
jealous
for me.
about that.
Yeah. It takes a little bit more.
But they never let you stop at 2.
How is it in Korea? Because, for example, before I went to Japan, I kind of like had that stereotypical image that Asian people can't drink. But like my Japanese friends constantly keep drinking me on the table, even though I would say I'm a strong drinker, but still, like I feel like they drink so much. I was really taken aback by it.
I don't know if it's changed, but I know that Koreans lead the world in the consumption of alcohol. At least the
Really?
last time I checked. Yeah, Koreans are the world's leading consumers of alcohol. Might have changed, and I don't know how, because I definitely
Is
am
that
not a
like in
testament
total
to that.
or per person or
Or per capita? Or...
Maybe per capita.
overall?
I think it
would
is
be
per
pretty
capita.
wild.
I think it must be per capita, but they do drink a lot of soju.
Isn't it Korea like in Japan that it's, or like I guess also in China, where it's kind of expected of you if you're part of a company and it's like we're
Yeah.
gonna go company
Exactly.
event, let's
Company
go drinking. And
events,
it's kind of like you
exactly.
can't say
No.
Yeah, it's not like in Europe where you're like, okay, no, I'm going home, thank you. It's like you have to go and
Exactly.
get shit faced with everyone.
Lots of rules about how to pour the drinks for someone who's older than you or in a more respectable
yeah.
position than you.
And who sits where at the table?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I have
Kamisa.
the stats. Sophie, you're almost correct. South Korea, second place.
Second, okay, we got
Most
overtaken
alcohol
recently.
consumed per capita.
Wait, I want to guess the first place. Let's guess.
Sure.
Russia.
No, but think Eastern European.
I'm gonna go with Ukraine.
No.
Poland. Actually, my guess would have been like maybe something like Mexico or something.
Definitely not in Europe.
Is Mexico on that list in the top 10? Or is that like just completely off?
Ooh, they're having to scroll up quite a way. I do not see Mexico. We've got
Where's
Venezuela sitting at like number 30.
Yeah, where does Japan sit?
They must be high.
Quite far down, actually. They are like 40th. Like New Zealand is above
Really?
Japan. So is the USA.
Wow. Where's Germany?
Germany is... You are 11th.
Yes.
And what about Australia? Us
Australia is
Southern folks?
very disappointing. We are below Japan. In fact, I still haven't seen our flag. I'm just gonna have to search for it.
That is
Oof.
fascinating. You're shattering my
stereotypes.
my worldview.
Yeah.
Not great. In any case, if you were curious, number 1 was Slovenia. Congratulations,
Slovenia.
Slovenian. You consume the most alcohol per capita.
If you're Slovenian, put your favorite drink
Alcoholic
in
drink.
comments below.
If you're Slovenian, like the video, subscribe to the channel, share the video.
So anyways, yeah. Wait, no, that's not a good transition. That was a good ending.
That was a good
That was a
ending.
good
You should have
ending,
just
but-
you should have just ended it.
You should have
I
just
thought-
rolled
I
it
thought you
out
were
there. Why did
ending
you
it.
say something?
I mean, we could just end it. This is over now. The end.
Bye.
Bye.